All right, well, let's get started. We've got a good group so far, and if people join, that's great. What I wanted to first start out by just talking about which would be just peppers in general. And I made a little assortment of peppers from my garden that I wanted to show you. And really with hot sauce, sky's the limit. I mean, you can add anything you want to it. What I'm going to show you today is like the most basic recipe in the world. And what you can do from that recipe is add a plethora of different things. You can add different peppers, you can add sweeteners, you can add fruit, you can add really whatever you want. I've experimented. I've looked online too to try and get ideas from other people. But a lot of times it's kind of just like, what's in my pantry? What's in my kitchen? What do I have that's sort of going bad from a fruit standpoint or from pepper standpoint? And I'll make things based on that. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna dump it. All right, so I'm going to show you just a few ideas of what you can use. If you're at the grocery store, you're probably not going to see everything that you see here, nor do you necessarily want to see them because they'll kill you. Um, but we've got some peppers you're going to definitely see your typical banana peppers. These are a little different. They're Inferno banana peppers, so they're like a little bit hotter. Got your old cherry peppers. Um, Good old jalapenos make a wonderful hot sauce. I mean, people usually think your red hot Frank's type sauce, but jalapenos make an amazing sauce. These are Scotch bonnet. I don't necessarily use these for hot sauce. I usually make jerk sauce or jerk marinade. And then these little fun things, these are actually purple cayenne. They're different and they make your sauce just look fun. So you can mix it and make like a little bit of a purpley sort of sauce. Got your habanero peppers, your typical kind of, when you're thinking about something super hot in a hot sauce, usually it's a habanero because they're sweet, they're tasty, but they're also very, very hot. And then at the end, you've got your Trinidad scorpion peppers, which are lethal. They're very, very, very hot. Like when I say hot, I think I put in one of the What We Know Now emails. When I was making hot sauce the first time with those peppers, I literally couldn't be in the kitchen anymore. The fumes of the peppers cooking was so strong that my husband's eyes in the living room were watering. I had to go upstairs. I was having a coughing fit. Like it's strong stuff. So, but if anyone wants any, I have so many in my garden growing, I can bring you some in. Just let me know. Kind of fun. You only need one if you're making hot sauce, and you probably would need to add other things to it to sort of take away the heat or take it down a notch, I should say. Other peppers, you got your standard sweet peppers, bell peppers, all from my garden. And then I get into, if I have too many peppers and I just, like I do right now, I'm not going to make a ton of hot sauce because I still have some left over from last year. I still have some in the freezer. So what I do typically is I dehydrate them or dry them out. Now you don't have to have a dehydrator. I do, but you can throw these in the oven on a really, really, really low temperature for multiple hours, or a toaster oven. Some toaster ovens actually have that setting where you can dehydrate, and all you need to do is just rehydrate it, and it tastes just like a fresh pepper. When I put together this lovely, huge informational guide on hot sauce, I took some stuff from online, obviously, but I did add my own kind of 2 cents to a lot of it, which you probably can tell by the way some of it's written. I included a recipe for, oh, here you go. Hot sauce from powdered peppers. Now, this isn't my favorite. It's a little different. It's obviously you have some cayenne or something on hand and you're like, well, I want a hot sauce. I don't have anything in the house. You can make it. It's different. So I made some the other day just to really kind of experiment. And I want to show you the consistency. It's weird. It's almost like, I don't know if you could see that, like grainy and gritty. And if you've ever had like a Nashville hot chicken or Nashville hot sauce, it has a very similar consistency where it's a little grainy. And that's because they do use those dried peppers when you make a Nashville hot sauce for chicken or whatever. So it's fine, it's usable, but I would say it's like your last effort. Like don't go out of your way to make a pepper, a hot sauce with that. It's okay, but I wouldn't love it. It's not great. All right. Other than that, a couple other things I included in here before I get to the hot sauce stuff. I included a recipe for hot oil, and I don't have a ton in here because I do use it a lot. If you can see in there, it's basically a corn or canola oil, something that's not olive oil, and a ton of peppers. And if you look at the recipe, it shows you how to do it. It's really easy, and it does come from dried peppers. So like your dried pepper flakes, not your powdered stuff like cayenne. It's got to be the pepper flakes. I actually take my dried peppers and I make my own. So this is like a powdered pepper mix. Mine is lethal though. It's really like I can smell it right now. My sinuses are open. I'm probably gonna sweat. But yeah, it's very strong. It's potent, but it still saves that delicious essence and taste of a pepper. So that's an option too. You can make your own chili flakes or your own chili powder to make hot chili oil, which is great on Asian foods. I'll show you in a second. The tofu bites that I have in here as well. I'll drizzle that on there. I personally like to put it on dumplings or dal buns or any type of like Asian fun bready thing, and I'll just pour a little bit on there, and it just enhances the flavor and gives it a little heat. Any questions on that? You guys gotta talk. I feel sad and lonely. Gotta be interactive with me. One other thing you can do, and this is just a purchased sauce, but I love it. This is the chili garlic sauce. You've probably seen it in the Wegmans or Tops, but you can also get it at some of the Asian markets. And basically this is similar where it's just peppers ground up with garlic, and it creates this lovely sauce that you can add to, I add it to like ramen bowls, I'll add it to marinades, I'll add it to salad dressings, things like that, but you can make it on your own as opposed to purchasing it. And that would be taking a lot of what you have left over, your like pepper pulp, and creating that sauce because it's thicker. It's not like a hot sauce. It's more like a, I don't know, I'm not going to say jam, something thicker though. All right, so we got all my little explanation stuff out of the way here. One more thing, my note. So I've not done this, but I have a friend who's really into hot peppers too. And so I gave him a couple of my scorpion peppers, and he took it, cut it up with gloves on, by the way, always with gloves. He cut it up and took the seeds out and put it in vodka. So he basically was infusing his vodka so it would be very, very spicy. Using it for, you could probably make obviously a Bloody Mary. You could put it in tequila if you wanted to do an infused tequila to make a spicy margarita. I'd probably suggest using jalapenos for that. Some of these other peppers are way too hot. I'll make other drinks too. Those are just the two that popped into my head when I was thinking about it. All right, so first few things here with any type of pepper, and honestly, even when you're dealing with jalapenos, you kind of never know what you're gonna get. Sometimes you could just bite them and there's no heat whatsoever. And I find that the bigger the pepper, the less heat you're probably gonna find. Usually, it's not always the case. But if you, I sometimes I'll go to Aldi and I'll buy one of those bags for like 99 cents. And they're usually really, really big. They're not usually as hot. So if you want something a little lighter, go for a bigger jalapeno. Sometimes the smaller ones are a little spicier. Other than that, let's get started. Okay, so initially what you're going to do is you're going to get your peppers. I don't know if you can get cayenne peppers in the store. You may have to. Farmer's market right now is a great time to get peppers. So I thought this class was like the perfect time because go to the farmer's market, everything pepper wise is, especially like I've got a ton of cayenne growing. It's still a little green, so I couldn't bring it out. But this is the time where all the peppers are really being harvested and are readily available. So you can probably get, if you want to try something a little bit spicier, I wouldn't go any further than like a habanero. So pick up your peppers, whatever you want to try out. If you can't find cayenne, you could always do the jalapeno. You can actually do the little red hot peppers too. Again, though, those are hit or miss. Some of them are really hot. Some of them are just a little bit spicy, which is fine because you can somewhat adjust the spiciness of your hot sauces after the fact and add a little something to make them not as spicy as well. All right, so what I did in the recipe, it's called 20 cayenne peppers. So I had a mix because some of my cayenne peppers, the tiny little traditional ones, the tiny little ones, I had maybe 6 of them that were ready to go. But I'm also growing these larger cayenne. They're in the same family, but they're a larger pepper, so they're not as hot. So what I did was I kind of estimated, well, I've got like 5 or 6 cayenne. I've got a bunch of the bigger ones, and I threw them in here. I just cut them up. There's really not, I mean, you could chop them first if you want to. You can throw them in whole. Doesn't really matter. Get them in the pot, add your salt. Be careful, sometimes depending on how much you have in there, it could be a little too salty. So I put in here about a half a teaspoon. You can always adjust it later and add more if you need to. And then garlic. So if you have fresh garlic, you can throw it in there. And if you don't, that's totally fine. You can add powdered garlic. It won't change like the consistency, like that pepper powder sauce I showed you earlier. It'll be totally fine. So you can just add that garlic powder, onion powder, really whatever you want. I like fresher vegetables, obviously, it gives it a better flavor. But again, if you don't have it on hand, totally fine, will be delicious. All right, so then you're going to add your 1.5 cups of vinegar, right? Yes, 1.5 cups of vinegar to this. You're going to throw it on the stove. You're going to put a top on it, though. You want to make sure that those fumes are not going throughout your house because it's strong. This one wouldn't be quite as strong as the hotter peppers, but it's still, you're going to sense it. You're going to feel it in your nose. So cover it up. I think I put 20 minutes or so. Might not take that long, depending. But once it's done, just leave it go. You want to let it cool. Peppers tend to be hotter when they're hot temperature-wise. So if you take peppers out and you're trying to make your sauce and you're in a rush and you want to get it done, you're going to know the difference between those peppers just sitting there and cooling and those peppers being hot and taking them right out of the pan. You will know, trust me. I've like literally almost died on the floor, coughing, like having a fit with peppers being so hot. So after you cook them, and I did banana peppers because I'm going to try something new. I'm going to try like a sweeter banana pepper hot sauce, which I've never made. So I threw a bunch of banana peppers in there. There's salt, pepper, and obviously vinegar. You can see that I don't want to dump it. And they're pretty soft. So like They're mushy. You want them to be mushy so when you throw them in your food processor, you'll be able to, need a napkin, you'll be able to actually push it through if you've got like a little colander or you have something like this, a tiny little one, because you want more of a sauce in most cases for your hot sauce, not like a thick chili sauce. You want something thinner. So you're going to want to push it through this, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. So now once you've got that done, it's cooled off, you're going to want to get your handy dandy chopper out. And I already chopped it because it's so loud and it takes a little bit. So this one here was a mix between those large cayenne peppers. I did throw a scorpion pepper in here, a small one, and then I added actually a sweet pepper. So sometimes if I'm using a really, really hot pepper and I like the flavor of it, because trust me, they all do have very different flavors. Sometimes you want that flavor, but maybe not quite the heat. I'll throw in regular peppers. I'll throw in a red pepper or a yellow pepper, depending on the color sauce I'm making. So what I did was I chopped it all up. You can use a blender, you can use a chopper, you can use a food processor, whatever you have. And this is the messy part. Now what you're going to want to do one-handed. Okay. You're going to want to pour that in there. See how glumpy it is and clumpy and thick? You're going to want to take your spoon. You're just going to want to smush it around. I got to put it down. I'm sorry, guys. I can't do it in the air. So you're going to just go like this. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. And now you can keep it the way it is. You don't have to do this. You can literally throw it in a jar, put in whatever you want, but just keep in mind you're going to have all those seeds in there, and you're also going to have the skin. So some people don't like that, and that's fine. You can do it either way. I like to actually do it this way for sauces, and then it takes a while, I'm not lying. You get a little workout, so that's good. Okay. Now, I didn't do it enough, but as you can see, the seeds and the skin are left there. Now, what you can do with the pulp, again, dry it out. So just like you would with the dried peppers, I like to dry it out and save it, or you could just throw it out, whatever you want to do. I make a lot of hot sauce, so I definitely don't save it all, but I will save it. I'll dry it out, and then I'll put it in my coffee grinder, spice coffee grinder, and I'll grind it up and make the powder, excuse me. Or again, I'll make the hot oil with the dried up pulp. So you never have to waste anything. So what you're going to get is this gorgeous hot sauce. Wait, let me try it. And there's that scorpion pepper at the end. So yes, that's all you really need to do with hot sauce. It is so simple and easy. I have other stuff to talk about, but do you have any questions on that? The whole process, or what you can use and what not to use? I think I wrote a lot of stuff in here too, but
Yeah, Shannon, is there any benefit to removing the seeds and the stem before putting in the food processor or anything like that? Does it change the flavor or taste at all?
well, it's a lot more work. If you want to just throw it all in there, it's fine. It doesn't really change the flavor, but what it will do is you're not going to get it as, I guess, quite as, I don't know, I don't feel like it's quite as hot because you don't have your peppers kind of partially, some of your peppers are going to be ground up a little bit, and so they will go in your sauce, like the fragments of your seeds. So I don't know. I guess it's personal preference. I don't think it matters either way. If you take your seeds out prior to cooking, obviously you're going to have a very mild sauce because the seeds and like the ribs inside of the pepper are really what holds all of that heat. So if when you're cutting up your peppers, you remove everything from the inside, it's going to be very mild. I guess you could probably do that and then add in your seeds later if you wanted to make it a little spicier. If it's too mild, you probably could do something like that. You could always add a little cayenne powder to your sauce if you needed to spice it up a little bit more. If I'm trying to sweeten it up, and let's say I have the seeds and everything in there and it's a little too hot, I have on occasion taken just a regular bell pepper, kind of just did the whole process, but just with the bell pepper, the sweet pepper, and then, this whole thing, put in the thing, that whole process, and put it into the hotter sauce to sort of calm it down a little bit. I've also dabbled with adding all sorts of different sweeteners. Obviously, you're changing the flavor profile quite a bit by adding a sweetener, but trust me, it's great on chicken wings. It's also great for just like a dipping sauce. So if you wanted to add a little honey, I've added agave syrup. I have tried molasses, and I think I put that in the notes. Molasses adds like a deeper, darker, not necessarily a sweet flavor, but definitely a different like level of flavor to a hot sauce. So I've done that with some of like I made a jalapeno hot sauce and I added a little molasses to it. It was a smoked jalapeno though, by the way. So I have done that as well. So if you have a smoker, you can smoke your peppers first and make more like a chipotle style hot sauce. I've done that with jalapenos and I've also done that with banana peppers. Much prefer the jalapeno smoked. I think I got all your questions. Anything else on that?
No, that's perfect. Thank you.
Yep. All right. So different styles of hot sauce. So this was from last year. So I found it in my fridge because I have a fridge outside in the garage too. This is cayenne sauce that I made last year. Beautiful, vibrant. It's probably one of the prettier sauces you can make. It's just so red and colorful. This is one of the ones I made that's sun-dried tomato, sun-dried tomato, jalapeno, and I think I put in a little spicy something else to it. I think I put in ghost pepper. So that one's really good. So like I said, you can really experiment quite a bit with your sauces. And again, if it's too strong, too spicy, too sweet, there's ways to offset that. And you can always ask me too. I'm happy to help with that. Some people like to add tomato. I've added tomato paste. I've never added fresh tomato. It's very, very liquidy, but tomato paste works really well. And again, rehydrated sun-dried tomatoes adds like that sweetness, which sometimes you need if you're using a really hot pepper. I have used on the fruit side. Now, I think I put in the notes when you're adding fruit to your hot sauces, the shelf life in your fridge, do not keep it on the shelf. It won't last as long because the fruit, even though you have a lot of vinegar and salt in there, the fruit will not stay as long. I think maybe 3 or 4 months. I've definitely had that longer and have eaten it and I'm still alive. I'm one of those people who sees the best by date until it goes over by like 5 days. So with fruit sauces though, just be a little more careful. If you're making like a larger batch of it, you can get peaches and plums and things like that right now. You could do grapes. I've never done grapes. That would be weird. I've done blueberry and that one's really fun, but it's not really blueberry season. But I know you can get peaches and plums and things like that, and you can make a nice sauce with that. And usually I do add a little honey or agave to that to make it really sweet. And then I always add a little bit of a hotter pepper to sort of counteract that sweetness. So I don't go just for like the cayenne, I'll go for probably a habanero or a ghost pepper. don't really do anything with hot sauce. I put just a few examples here, but really the sky's the limit. I love spicy, and they also say it helps your metabolism, so that's a win too. Not my stomach. It definitely hurts my stomach if I have something too hot, but there's a lot of things you can do with it. So because this is all about PBD living, being healthy, I wanted to include some like healthier recipe ideas. And the first one I just made it to today, and I ate it. It's delicious. So these are the tofu bites. I don't think they're pretty. So if you've never had tofu before, don't be afraid of it. It's basically, think of it like a sponge. So when you're working with tofu and you're marinating it in something, it's going to soak up all that flavor, kind of like what a mushroom does if you like mushrooms or cook with them. It'll really soak it up like a sponge. And it doesn't have a distinct flavor, kind of like a softer, well, I like the extra firm tofu, but there's different levels that you can buy. And this one is extra firm, so it's got kind of a little bit of a creamy, spongy, chewy, I don't know, it's a great texture. And especially when you bread it, it's almost kind of like a fake, healthier mozzarella stick in a way. And honestly, if you have a nice little dipping sauce, it's delicious. It's a great appetizer. I have yet to serve it at a football party, but I plan on doing it and like tricking my family because they're very meat and potatoes and won't try things. So I'm definitely going to give that a try. I'll let you know how it goes, but it's delicious. And you can use any type of dipping sauce with it. And honestly, I marinated it in buttermilk. I love using buttermilk for my base instead of like an egg dredge. I'll use buttermilk with all sorts of different seasonings in it. And you're like, who uses buttermilk anymore? Well, I do. I love it. I use it when I'm breading anything because literally you just dunk it and you don't need to do the flour and the panko, that whole thing. You can literally just throw it in the panko and it sticks like glue. It's wonderful. Kind of like a yogurt would be. So with that, I'll put in any type of marinade. Hot sauce is what I use for this one. So I used buttermilk. I put in some hot sauce. I did not add salt because hot sauce can be a little salty. Buttermilk also has that little bit of tang and flavor to it. So I left the salt out and I added that after the fact just because I tend to make things too salty sometimes. I'm a saltaholic. So I left that out just to make sure that it didn't have too much. So you can add that after the fact or add it to your dipping sauce, depending what that is. I've also breaded fish that way, so it's a much healthier version. Buttermilk, yeah, I mean, there's a few more calories, but you're not using that much of it. And also I've used to make like schnitzels, so like breaded pork, breaded chicken. I've used it for like cube steak. You can get a pork cube steak or you can get beef cube steak, same thing. I do that dredge and I don't deep fry any of it. I'll either air fry, which is what I did here, and it's delicious, or I'll pan fry it, or I'll do like a combination of the two depending on what I'm cooking. Any questions on that? Don't like when there's no questions. Okay, so another few ideas here. I was trying to do like an anti-inflammatory diet a couple years ago, which I don't suggest, it's really awful. But I was trying to figure out what I could eat, which wasn't a lot, without having to put a lot of effort and time into cooking, which was very difficult. So I actually made these like little chicken skewers. And you're not supposed to have a ton of hot sauce, but you can have some. So I'm like, well, I'm going to make like a hot sauce marinade. There's like not that many calories. I make my own so I can adjust how much salt I put in it so it's a little bit better for me sodium wise. So I basically just took, and I didn't make it today because I didn't have any chicken frozen, well, boneless. So you can take chicken thighs, you can take chicken breasts and just skewer them. Make sure that you have your skewers soaking for like 30-45 minutes in water beforehand if they're the wood ones, because I've done it way too many times where I'm like, it's fine, it'll be fine. Burn it every time. The wood's always burned. So be careful with that. soak it 30, 45 minutes, throw that chicken on there. Use your marinade, which again, I used hot sauce. You could use really anything that you want to that's on a little bit more of a healthy side to make these skewers. But because obviously this is the hot sauce class, that's what I'm doing, or that's what I did. And then I made the low-cal blue cheese dip. Now you're going to eat and be like, yeah, it's all right. It's never going to be as good as the mayonnaise version. So you just got to get it through your head. It's going to be good, but it's not going to be as good. I didn't make it this time because I actually have, full fat blue cheese in my fridge, and I didn't want to trick you and show you that one because the consistencies are a little bit different. But it's a nice touch to having that spicy chicken skewer, to have that low fat blue cheese dressing. There are also ranch dressings out there that are low cal. If you've got leftover buttermilk from your tofu here, which you will, you can make a little buttermilk ranch and just try and keep down the calories a little bit by not adding mayo. You can always add a little Greek yogurt to it. It does pretty much replace the mayo pretty well. Doesn't taste quite as good, but it still works. Also, so when you could probably do this at the same time, especially if you're grilling. So if you're grilling, grill your chicken like that. And then also I marinated vegetables. So I love to grill veggies. And typically I will grill red peppers, yellow peppers, that kind of thing. Eggplant, zucchini, yellow squash, mushroom, probably about it. That's my usual grilling vegetables. But you can marinate them also in a bit of the hot sauce. I put a little bit of olive oil. Some people do actually use oils in their hot sauces as well, which I don't, because the shelf life isn't quite as long. So if you marinate them, what happens to the vegetables, and I would marinate them for a couple hours. It'll actually help remove some of the liquid in your vegetables. The salt in the marinade will actually pull some of that liquid out. So you're going to notice it on the bottom, you're going to have a lot of liquid there. But it's good because then you don't have mushy vegetables when you're grilling them. They'll have a little bit more substance to them and not mushy, and then they won't stick to your grill. So those are really good. And again, always use your dipping sauce. Big fan of dipping sauce. Corn. Now, I'm kind of like, it's good, but I think you need to use good popcorn for this, meaning I make microwave popcorn, not the bagged kind. I actually have the popper where you just add the kernels, and then I put a little cooking spray with a little salt on it. Been doing that my whole life. And it's good, but if you added something like hot sauce, it would get mushy. Kind of like if you add butter to it, get like a little bit mushy. So the only kind that I think really works well for this is when you use a little oil, because the oil actually does coat the popcorn a little bit and it doesn't get as soggy. But it's delicious if you really like hot sauce, just putting a little bit on your popcorn. And obviously the Bloody Mary. I did not include a recipe for a Bloody Mary here because everyone has their own twist on it. And there's great mixes out there too. Some of them you probably don't even need hot sauce because some of them are really spicy. I like the one, I think it's Zing Zang or something like that. That one's really good if I'm not making it on my own, which is a lot of work and a lot of ingredients. But if you do want to make some on your own, or if you have like a Bloody Mary mix that's not quite as spicy, add some of your homemade hot sauce. It makes such a difference. Plus, I mean, if you're making it on your own, you can probably try and get the sodium content down a little bit too, because Bloody Marys are bad. There's so much sodium in them.
Shannon, it's Lynn. I have a question going back because you piqued my curiosity. Because I also have a garden full of peppers that all decided to become ripe at the same time.
Yep.
So now I have a fridge full of peppers that are currently taking over like Jumanji.
Yes.
And ironically, my dehydrator is running on my kitchen counter right now. full of rosemary that I'm drying
Yep.
for cooking. But I never thought to dehydrate the Jumanji of peppers I have in my fridge right now. How would you rehydrate them, and what would you use a rehydrated pepper in and not in?
Well, you can literally just put it in a pan with water. So think of it, I
Would
don't
it
know
get
if you've ever,
soggy?
I mean, they're going to be soggy for sure. Anytime,
Okay.
yeah, they're going to be soggy. They're never going to like be a crisp, lovely pepper anymore. Think of
Okay.
it kind of like when you get a jar of like red peppers, you know, the jars of peppers that you can
Yeah.
purchase, usually they're red. It's going to be very similar. So you're going to have that kind of
Okay.
little bit of a mushiness to them. So I'll can them as well. I don't do it quite as often because canning is like such a process. But I do when I have just like an insane amount of peppers, I'll can. I also like to do like a cowboy caviar with jalapenos. So that's where you do sort of like the sweet brine and you candy them, and they're amazing on pretty much everything. So if you guys want the recipe for that, I can send that to you. I usually can those. I just actually did that last weekend. I had probably like 5 pounds of jalapenos, not all from my garden. That'd be quite the garden. And I cut them up and I made all of them into the candied cowboy, whatever, cowboy caviar, and I can them. So I have them probably for the year. I also do like a pickle brine too. So if you want like the pickled jalapenos, that works. I've also taken this pulp and I've made pepper jelly. So if you've ever had like hot pepper jelly, that is really good too. It's like sweet, but it's really hot and spicy. Tastes good like on cream cheese or goat cheese, that kind of thing. When I've dried these peppers, and I've probably have like half a bag left, and I had a full bag before. I ran out of my cayenne. No, it wasn't cayenne. One of my hot sauces. So I took all my dried peppers and I made hot sauce out of it. Because they're dry, you're just rehydrating them and using the exact same method I just showed you, other than they got to cook a little longer so they can rehydrate. But that's really the only difference. Now, if you're talking like more like the bell peppers, I don't usually have enough to dehydrate. I eat a lot of peppers, so usually gone before I even get to that point, unfortunately. But I don't see why you couldn't. Give it a try, experiment.
Okay. I am. I think I'm going to try it. After the rosemary comes out, I'm going to throw some peppers in because, to your point, if they're still soggy, that's okay. Maybe I'll use them for soups. Like I can at least throw them in my soups in the winter when I'm making them cooking.
You could also rehydrate it. And if you watch my last episode of virtual cooking, I made a red pepper tamponade. So you could always do that. You just got to make sure you get a lot of the liquid out. So once you rehydrate, maybe throw it on some paper towels, dry it off as much as possible. Throw it in your food processor with a little olive oil, salt, pepper. If you want anything else in it, you can add it. I like throwing basil in there, and nice little spread for breads, or really you can put on anything. I put it on chicken, a little Parmesan on top. That would probably work really well too.
Thank you.
Anything else, guys? All right. So just a few things that I wanted to talk to you about, because who's going to read this whole entire book that I wrote? So vinegar. So I'm like, yeah, just add 1.5 cups of vinegar, whatever you want. I typically just use plain old white vinegar. The times when I don't is when I'm doing probably more of the sweeter or fruitier hot sauces. I might use like an apple cider vinegar. I made a sauce, I put fresh ginger in it. Fresh ginger, white rice wine vinegar, and I think there were cayenne, like a mix of cayenne and habanero. And I made like an Asian style kind of hot sauce. It was really good. So really, you can use any type of vinegar. I just would obviously stay away from your balsamics or something like that. But rice wine, red wine, your regular apple cider vinegar or white. They all work really well. Just gives it a different flavor profile. How long will hot sauce last? Well, I told you about the fruit one, but again, I keep things way longer than I probably should. If I don't see mold, it's fine. So I'm like, there's so much vinegar in there. It's got to still be good. The regular hot sauces, again, it just depends on how, I don't want to get all technical here, but the pH balance in there, there's ways that you can measure that'll tell you how long it'll last based on the acidity levels, blah, blah, blah. Honestly, a year plus is totally fine for a hot sauce. If you have enough vinegar and salt in there, it's not going to do anything. It's not going to go bad. If you want to make the shelf life even longer, you can get into fermenting your hot sauce, which is a whole different level of flavor and shelf life. And it's good. It's a different process. So you have to actually let your peppers sit there and ferment on your counter. And I'm not going to tell you the smell is great for the first few days because it's not. It's like making homemade sauerkraut, which I'm doing actually right now, and I can smell it. The first few days are awful. You can do that with peppers too. So what it does is it creates a different flavor, and it's not sour. It's not like a sauerkraut. It's just, I think Frank's and a lot of those other sauces are fermented for shelf stability. So it just gives it a different flavor. So that's an option too. And I have a whole book on it if anyone's interested in borrowing it. I did a fermented. This was a crazy one. And I liked it, but I didn't love it. So it was pineapple, the cherry peppers, pineapple, cherry peppers. I think there was ginger in it and something else. And I let it ferment and literally sitting in this like mason jar fermenting. And then, you know, the whole same process here of, you know, putting it through the food processor and all of that. It was like an explosion of flavor in your mouth. It was very weird. It was good, but I think it would only be good on certain things, like maybe like chicken or I don't know. I had made one bottle of it. It was okay. But again, it's all about experimentation and trying different things. I think I mentioned freezing hot sauce. I've got probably 4 or 5 in my freezer, and those are the fruit ones. I really like the peach and apricot hot sauces with like a habanero pepper. Those are super tasty. And again, those are great on chicken wings. Calorie-wise, get some chicken thighs instead. You can take the skin off. I like chicken thighs because you can cook them a little bit longer. When they're on the bone, they have a little bit more flavor. And I feel like when you're using like a hot sauce and you're sort of trying to mimic a chicken wing, it works a lot better than your standard kind of dry chicken breast. So give that one a try. That's really good. And if you're looking for any recipes on any of those things, I never use recipes, as you probably all have heard from me at some point. But for something like that, I know there's a ton of them online. I can help you find them. All right, so I think I mentioned, I don't know if I mentioned, when you're cutting up your peppers, I think I did, always wear gloves. Always, 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 always. If you've ever had hot pepper in your eye, under your nails, where you might have a cut, maybe you go like this and you touch your nose. It's not a good time. It's not a good time. Trust me. I think I've probably done it all. So always wear gloves when you're using like any type of real hot pepper. I don't use them unless I'm going to the level of probably like maybe habanero and up. There's absolutely nothing on this pepper that's going to bother me right now. It doesn't actually release any of like that capsaicin or that release the heat until you break it open. And as soon as that happens, the oils within the pepper get on your skin and they're hard to get off. I'm not gonna lie, like for a couple of days I've had like that stuff under my nails. It just burns. Like it felt like under my nails was burning. So just be careful. Do you guys have any questions for me at all? Please ask me
Well,
questions.
you've inspired me. I am making the buffalo chicken skewers for dinner.
Oh, they're
So
so
I
good.
don't
And they're
have
so
homemade hot
healthy.
sauce, but I'm going to have to use my Frank's. But
Frank's is
I'm
great.
trying it and then
I-
see if they like it.
I'm not gonna lie, I've got a bottle of Frank's too. I think sometimes I just feel like eating it.
I'll let you know how it comes out.
Yeah. Um, it's usually it's good because it's healthy, right? So you don't feel the guilt when you're having something like that, but it kind of fills the need of chicken wings. And I feel like I love chicken wings, and that's probably one of my guilty pleasures that I eat way too often and then I eat healthy the rest of the time, but I love my chicken wings and I love blue cheese. So these options are a little bit healthier. You can not feel as guilty. The blue cheese dressing in here is still, it's not going to be low calories because there's still blue cheese in it. I actually like gorgonzola. I always get a little container of it from Niagara Produce on Transit. They have like really good gorgonzola for some reason, and it's a little more mild. Sometimes blue cheese can be really, really, really strong, and I prefer it to be a little more mild. So I usually go with the gorgonzola, and I make that dip. Except right now, I have the fattening one. It's Bill's party. I eat bad.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So yeah, give that a try too. It's pretty good, and I like Greek yogurt, but keep in mind when you're looking at Greek yogurt, there are different like levels of the type of milk that they use to make it. And if you're getting like the no fat one, it's not going to taste great. I'm going to be honest with you. It's kind of like getting a light sour cream compared to real sour cream, or like light cream cheese and regular cream cheese aren't too bad, but the sour cream one, there's a big difference. It's kind of like that. So I'd go with if you could go with a little bit more of a fat content in the Greek yogurt, I would do that. I like the whole milk Greek yogurt. It's amazing, but it's also higher in fat, higher in calories, although they say it's good fat. But if I'm eating so much of it, it's still not good fat if I'm eating a lot. So just don't go with like the no fat Greek yogurt or you'll be really disappointed.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions, guys? All right. Well, if you do after the fact, let me know. And other than that, I'll hopefully be doing another one soon. I took all the feedback from the survey results, and that's how I'm adding all these different recipes, because someone at some point said they wanted a grilled vegetable recipe or this type of recipe. So hopefully, if you did give me feedback, I'll be incorporating some of those recipe ideas in future either in the dispensary or a monthly what we know now or something, or on PBD Living or one of these classes.
Great job,
Oh.
Shannon. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you.
Have a good day, guys.